Welcome back to the grim darkness of the 41st Millennium. I am Inquisitor Caveat Ventus, keeper of the Inquisition's Black Library, and this is my report on the Valentyne Heresy, an actual play podcast set in the Genesys adaptation of Warhammer 40,000's Dark Heresy RPG. This report features Game Master Tom McGee, Ryan LaPlante as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Laura Elizabeth as Lyric, and Tyler Hewitt as Alto. My report shows that Inquisitor Valentyne's landing on Vicodin Prime ended in tragedy. Alto was killed trying to return the ship's power, Lyric fell to chaos trying to save her brother, and Valentyne was forced to eject, abandoning his team to a fiery death. How will the Inquisitor survive a world teeming with orcs? Find out in this episode of the Valentyne Heresy.
From a redacted memo to Kasserkin High Command. Listen, I know, it's rare to send your elite stormtroopers anywhere else, but you want us to keep supplying the booze to your army and your planet and every other Imperial planet. You really gotta help us with these fucking orcs. So, what's it gonna be? Vicodin or Wah? Laura.
Hey.
Lyric experienced a plane crash very recently in our modern timeline. Your new character also experienced a crash of a considerably different nature. It was the third week of the Kasserkin campaign on Vicodin against the Orc force. And incidentally, your first time fighting orcs. And as someone who likes to fight, oh boy, did you pick a good force to fight. Because admittedly, if you just want an unending tide of combat to fuck around with, they got your back. So 3 weeks in, both armies had heavily entrenched. Your crack elite forces obviously sent in very small number, but one of you is worth several of a standard trooper, as the barracks is quick to point out to the rest of the rank and file. But the planetary defense and local security of the of Glasgow Vicodin's plant was not really up to fighting an invading Orc army. So having dug in, you and your unit made incredible headway into the Orc lines. It was a classic Alexander the Great drunk on his horse, let's just charge through the center and see what we can do kind of attack. And it was going wonderfully until you and your regiment in your heavily armored vehicle crashed. And unlike Lyric's crash, yours wasn't against a cliff, it was down between a few, as the heavy vehicle with its heavy tracks hit a weak patch of ground with a massive fissure, which cracked, sending your armored vehicle plunging deep into what you'd assumed were kind of endless rolling green plains, but are in fact, as we learned last time, a highly elevated situation. So after a plethora of swearing and a couple casualties as your armored vehicle basically plunged deeper and deeper into the earth, it finally came to a stop. And you were able to drag your few remaining compatriots out. And all of you realized you were deep behind enemy lines, completely cut off from command. And alive, which was in your books pretty good because that means you can go kill some more stuff. But deep enough that either someone needs to rescue you or you're pretty much just here for the duration. And at first it was business as usual, but one by one people kept dying, which admittedly you've always kind of found a flaw in the system and honestly a sign of weakness. But for you, the war was never over, and with fearsome abandon, you continued to battle, saving, of course, your most precious weapon for the time you knew must one day come, the day you would have to make a last stand. That was 10 years ago. So you have been living in the caves of Vicodin, kind of waging a guerrilla war against the Orc forces. And again, beautiful thing about an orc wah, it just keeps coming. So not unlike a respawn corridor somewhere in a video game, they keep coming. You keep putting them down. So Laura, tell us about your character and about their hovel. I imagine you've built it in the wreckage of your vehicle, deep in the cave systems. But yes, who are you?
Oh, 100%. So I am Marnie Schwartzenberger. Basically, so I'm in like total like full like carapace armor. Like I'm like fucking shit up. But with 10 years having gone by, things are getting a little bit worn. So I've definitely like reinforced all my shit with like stuff I've like torn off like the vehicles and everything. It's just like things got to get patched. So we're definitely looking at something that looks like it's kind of grown into the caves almost, and I've kind of like cannibalized like the different parts to like, you know, make sure that I'm like well contained and like safe from the elements, and also somewhat hidden, camouflaged. So yeah, I'm like about 6 feet tall. So in my armor, I'm like 6'4", 6'5". I'm just like a beast of a person. I'm about, I was like 40 years old when this started. So already like, man, like I've made it like a pretty long while, right? Having like fought and everything. So yeah, so I'm 50 years old now and I'm like brawny, blonde, super short hair, and just like a weathered looking leathery lady.
Awesome.
If you had to do a celebrity casting, who would you cast? Because sometimes we found this to be useful for picturing characters.
Yeah, imagine like Brienne of Tarth spent like 10 years alone fighting orcs.
In a cave. Yeah,
and
that's
is
specific.
50. Yeah, so yeah.
Okay,
Brienne of
I love
Tarth,
that.
but kind of melted.
Yeah, like Brienne of Tarth if she was the villain in a Rocky movie, like just
Yeah,
Dolph Lundgren and Brienne of Tarth.
Dolph Lundgren and Brienne of Tarth. Yeah,
great.
Perfect mix.
Brienne of Toast.
Tarth Lundgren.
Oh, Tarth Lundgren's pretty good.
All right, awesome. So Marnie, you have been living in the caves for a bit. You are a Kasserkin stormtrooper, so like coming already from a very elite fighting force in the Cadian army. You are the best of the best of the best of the best. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're a tactical genius or a superhero, just that you're, like, in the immortal words of our old pal Wolverine, you're the best of what you do, and what you do isn't that pleasant. Snicked bub. That's in part how you've been able to hold out so long. However, as I mentioned, your compatriots were not as lucky. Some of them died in the accident. The vehicle itself, think like essentially an armored troop transport. It probably had some like, it might have had like a bolter on the outside that you could kind of use as a turret. But the idea very much was like use it as basically as like a shovel, like just boot it through, dump the back door, spill out and fight. The Space Marines have all sorts of bigger, sexier, heavier stuff, but for guard, you're kind of taking what you can. Also, admittedly, deploying Kasserkin stormtroopers to a foreign world is highly irregular. I don't think this is anything Schwartzenberger would give a shit about, but just kind of for our knowledge and for our lore, incredibly strange to see Cadian soldiers being just sent to defend like a booze plant on a foreign planet. But nevertheless, you were, with what little armory they would give you. How do you think Marnie has treated the bodies of her fallen mates? Again, some died in the crash, some died over time fighting. Many were lost like in battles with orcs, so they just aren't around. But like for those that have died in the caves, what do you think you've done, if anything, to memorialize them?
I've stripped them of all their gear so that I could have backup supplies of everything. I mean, my batteries aren't going to be able to power themselves for like my guns forever, so gotta have their shit. And honestly,
So is there just like a discard pile of?
it's just like dump them down the fissure.
Okay, great.
That's
Great.
fine. I mean, like they died.
Yep. It's true. It's cardinal sin in the world of Marnie Schwartzenberger.
It's like, what are they doing?
Beloved, long-standing character on the Valentyne Heresy. Great. Okay. And you mentioned needing batteries for your weapons. So I would assume then you've got something kind of special. What is Marnie's weapon of choice?
Well, definitely the one she uses most often is her hell gun. So she's got like a hell gun, hell pistol combo. And there is a plasma gun lying around, but that's for
It's for special occasions.
very special occasions.
Got to save the plasma for your birthday.
It's her favorite, but she realizes that you can't use it all the time.
Well, and as we set up, given that this has been like a bit of this is going to be eventually going to be a last stand kind of situation. Like, I feel like if you're going to make a last stand, like you want to go down firing a plasma cannon, not like
that would be. Yes.
And refresh my memory. So plasma cannon is obviously like fire.
Just a plasma gun.
Oh, plasma gun. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So is that the plasma gun is a rifle though, correct? Yes, great.
Yes.
It's very confusing because it goes like pistol, gun, thing, but yeah. So it's a
heavy ranged weapon.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a useful stat for Tom to know as he sets up challenges. But the hell gun is, I believe, just a rapid fire.
So a hell gun is a souped up las gun. I could tell this. Sorry,
you tell this, Ryan.
It's powerful enough that it's pretty much ultra charged, and stormtroopers have to wear backpacks that are their batteries, so they plug in physically. So think of, it's the upgrade to a hell. Like a hell gun is las gun if you're firing the nastiest.
Oh, so like a
shots
las
you can.
gun, but good.
Yes, exactly. Honestly, it's the last gun everybody wants.
Right.
But because of the backpack, it's trickier. So like the hell pistol and the hell gun are both plugged into what looks like almost a Space Marine power pack.
So
it might have a combination flamethrower. It might.
Look, I understand. We all got secrets, Laura. We all got ambitions. I like that you're basically just 40K Kate McKinnon in Ghostbusters Answer the Call. Like you've got your pistols, you got your proton wand. They're all plugged into the same fucking device, and you're just like, it's great.
Yeah, the plasma gun itself is it fires like molten hot balls of plasma, so like super penetrative, super damaging. It's got a bunch of heat coils on the top that like blast heat out because it can overheat and explode.
Yeah.
The more you use it, the more explosive it can be.
I've lost a few Marines on the field to that because I got to tell you, my Dark Angels rolled pretty hard with those plasma weapons because they look dope as hell when you paint them. But okay, great. So you've got a special gun in reserve, and otherwise you're using that. I think, Laura, for the ease of kind of lore, we'll say that in addition to what you've stripped off your compatriots, enough of the ATV or the armored troop transport. That's what I wanted.
Yep.
Are we talking Chimera, like a tank, Tom? Or are we talking Torox, like the truck that's armored and
We're talking like a stripped down Rhino, so probably a Torox.
Nice.
Because no, it's not a tank. There's no tanks down here. No tanks percent, which is again a significant detail. So very much an armored troop transport. Enough of its guts have been fine to like continually charge your Hellgun pack, although it has been getting weaker over time. I think on this day of days that we meet you, I think after a particularly rough battle, you've realized you're being hunted, which I mean has happened a few times in past, but I really do feel like in a lot of ways you're like I was thinking this a little bit like Schwarzenegger in Predator, where it's just like you've just set up a number of traps to fall back to in terms of like, well, I'm fighting an insurmountable thing, so like, fuck you, here's some pointy sticks. So you've been able to hold them off for a while, but unfortunately, there are some bigger guys coming for you now, and it would seem that, oh God, Ryan, refresh my memory, I want to call them...
Knobs?
I wanted to call them Nogs, and I'm like, no, that's that gross beverage I'll probably drink soon. Knobs. So knobs are basically a step up from regular orc boys. They're the guys who get all of like the cool fancy robot shit. Honestly, Alto would have fucking been fascinated by them because they're basically cyborg orcs who kind of
Cyborgs? Why don't they call them cyborgs?
I don't know, man. They should have. They really should have.
They actually have an upgrade you can give to your orc called a cyborg body, which is if they take enough injuries, they become half robot.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome.
But a lot of like metal plated jaws and that sort of shit. So normally knobs, there's like one to a unit. Unfortunately for you, you have gained a reputation, a bit of a Baba Yaga, John Wick situation. And as a result, an entire squad of knobs has been sent to end you, to find and end you. And unlike the average orc boy, they are a little bit cannier. So you get the sense that the day you always knew would come is rapidly approaching. So having come back from a hunt and realizing now that you're being stalked and that this is going down, you've returned one final time. You're making your way towards your little hovel. What do you think is going through Marnie's mind at this point? Is she excited? Is she resigned? What's the vibe?
No, I mean, like, this is what she's meant to do, right? This was the mission. The mission was to put down the orcs, and that's what she's been doing. So this is just another opportunity for her. I mean, desperate as the situation is, she has to fulfill her mission.
Great. Okay.
So fuck these orcs.
Fuck these orcs.
That's what's going through her head.
Amazing. All right. So your hell guns are running dangerously low. We'll say you've been at it all night. And into the next day. And basically, you know the knobs are getting closer. Your stuff needs recharging. So you're heading back for one last supply run before your dramatic last stand. So you're a bit tired. I think based on the way you've described her, I imagine being tired for Schwartzenberger is a little bit like someone who really likes working out being tired, where it's like, yes, this was great. I'm tired, but that means I did good. Yeah. And also, admittedly, I think, particularly amongst the stormtroopers, there's always been a bit of an attitude of like rest when you're dead, because like ain't gonna be rest till then. So, admittedly, if you need a fucking nap, you can have it probably in a couple hours when you're done. Like, fuck it. So it's with these thoughts running through your head that you finally return home for the last time to find a bleeding man with a rocket pack strapped to him, holding your plasma gun vaguely menacingly at you. What do you say?
I point my hell gun at him and say, are you an orc?
Oh, tremendous. I was hoping there'd be humans on this world. No, my name is Lucius Valentyne, and I am a member of His Majesty's Holy Inquisition. I imagine this is yours. He's like singed. He's just drops the like jetpack off of himself, and he's holding out the plasma gun.
Before we hear what occurs here, Valentyne, let's figure out how the fuck you got here, bud. When we last left you, you were sputtering off towards certain doom.
Yeah, my jetpack cut out and I fell 10 meters.
Yeah. So after waking up on the shore, somewhat battered and bruised, having lost your ship and with all hands aboard, what do you think Valentyne's mindset was then, in the immediate aftermath of crashing? Given that this is something I know for a fact you will not tell our new friend Marnie Schwartzenberger.
So I feel like he would be tempted to be depressed, but he believes that any sort of negative emotion is a sin. So he would force himself to look at this as an opportunity, and he'd like have to talk himself through it and be like, all right, so that may not have been what I expected. That went very, one might say, wrong. But what we learn is something's going to go very right now. Something's going to be very right, and I will find a more useful team that will help me complete my mission. And he's just like, because I think we're by the ocean, right? Like he's just like soggy, and he's like shaking out his hat, and he's checking his gear, and like throws Eugene in the air, and he sort of sparks for a second, but then he flies, and he's like, all right. Get his auspex out. How far away would he be from his flaming crash landed ship?
Oh, like, it kept going for a while. Say this for Acri. Alto did, in fact, put his faith in the right pilot, because he kept that thing up as long as it could. But it is, like, I'd say probably a couple kilometers down the coast.
Okay, is there anything else he can see? Because that'd be his big thing. Like, he's just got to find the good thing that's meant to happen.
You look around and, like, you can still see orc ships flying sort of through the sky. Luckily, they didn't track you. The ace pilot seems to have pulled off and is kind of, you can see sort of this red Baron orc circling the wreckage, doing a victory lap. And truly, in either direction, it's just like full on fucking Planet of the Apes endless coast, just with a giant cliff face behind you. And for a moment, things are somewhat hopeless, until you feel a bit of a cool breeze, which is odd because like the sea breeze around you is kind of humid. But as you turn, you realize that the Emperor has provided for you yet again, because there is a crevice, a crevasse, if you will, that you seem like you could probably fit through. We're going to go ahead and say you don't abandon the jetpack in the off chance that the only way up out of here is to try and boot it up later, but it's not, you're not going to try and fly now. It's more of like a last case.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. He'll lug it around. It's all he's got. All right,
So it's time for me to take stock of the situation. I am heavily injured, and my intestines could fall out at any moment. I have a gun, I have a chainsword, I have an Auspex, and Eugene. No Rick Estrello today, but you're doing fine. Everyone I brought with me is dead, due to a combination of stupidity, disobedience, stupidity, heresy, and an unfortunately large body mass. I have achieved 0 of my goals. But I'm here, and I have a crevasse. I'm going to talk less and go into the crevasse.
And with that, you set out both in search of a way out and perhaps some slightly better help, which is what you think you might be looking at as you hold out a plasma gun to the hulking woman in armor staring you down. Marnie, you've just been reoffered your plasma gun by this injured human. I think he's rough enough that you wouldn't recognize him as an Inquisitor per se. Also, I don't know that you know Inquisitors necessarily. Like, you probably know of them, but it's very much like... Sure.
To you, he'd look like a commissar.
Yeah, so, like, again, like, someone you should respect, but also, you don't really answer to random guys. But it is strange to see someone down here.
Yeah.
So yes, he holds out the gun to you and says, "I believe this is yours."
You are correct. It is mine. I don't know what happened with the accent.
Okay.
Laura, as a fan of all of our shows and someone who is on all of them, I can tell you the accent is whatever comes out of your mouth at a given time. As
That's how
anyone who's heard me
all
do any of my
Cadians
accents is. Yeah, exactly.
All Cadians sound like this. This is canon now.
Put it on the ground. And step back.
All right. And he'll just like set it down and like give a little bow as the flourish and step back.
Ryan, can you roll me a resilience check, please? You're used to being able to move in certain ways, and as someone who very frequently like pulls muscles in their back and stuff, I'm like, I can move in this way, and I'm like, not anymore. So yeah, you've got some intestines on the verge of popping out. So you do a courtly bow, and let's see if those.
What's my difficulty, Tom?
How many wounds do you have left?
I have 5 wounds.
5 wounds. Okay, great. So I'm going to say your difficulty is 3. I'm going to give you 1 boost for bandages. Obviously, Haldren was able to do some before he died. So you're a little bit patched up. I'm also going to give you 1 boost for recognizing that you need this to go well. I think for all of the like jolly good, we'll just carry on. Yeah, the light is slowly fading here. So, yep. And I think that's it for me.
Great. What's our story point situation at this session?
Given the absolute unyielding clusterfuck of the previous session, I'm going to go ahead and say that it is 3 in your favor, 1 in mine.
Okay, then I will spend one of those because I feel like because he believes so fervently that this will go right that his level of confidence that they'll get along somehow is endearing in a weird way. 2 advantage, but 1 failure.
All right, so Schwartzenberger, what is your take on this weird bowing commissar-looking motherfucker?
Well, he put down the gun, so he did what I told him to do. So he follows orders. So he's probably on the level.
Okay. Based
Entirety of thought.
Yeah, I understand. Based on the failure, though, we gotta complicate that a little bit. So I'm gonna say that even though you managed to impress Schwartzenberger, you definitely pop one of Haldren's stitches, and you're gonna take a wound.
All right.
That ignores soak, obviously.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It's like, put on my refractor field. Never mind. Your internal organs respect that. Cool. But she does, Schwarzenberger does seem to relax slightly, in as much as someone who's made of muscle and armor can relax.
Did the Orks give you those wounds?
Well, yes and no. This one I just did from the bow, sort of. Other ones came from, well, there was a tiger monster and there was a corrupt administratum. It's been a long journey, but I'm here to save the Emperor. Obviously, you've been sent to me by the Golden Throne.
And I take a knee and bow.
All right. Respect for the Emperor. Dig it.
Yeah.
Marnie, you knew that this day would come, the day when you would make your last stand. And you thought that last stand would probably be against a bunch of knobs and orcs, and you just die heroically doing nothing in combat. But now you're realizing that last stand is still coming. But it is a hell of a lot more exciting, because your last stand is going to be in front of the God's damned Emperor-loving Golden Throne. And so, underneath your helmet, a wide grin spreads across your face, because it turns out Marnie Schwartzenberger is going to get to kill a whole hell of a lot more people. A memo to the Sergeant of the Glorious Regals, 3rd Regiment. Look, Flavius, I hate to do this to you, but it would seem that a few of your more excited troopers are getting a little too big for their standard issue breeches and must be taken care of. We simply cannot have this kind of behavior, as you are well aware. Of course, executing all these people for treason would be highly suspicious, so I will leave it up to you to come up with a variety of ways of getting the unit back in shape. Pip pip cheerio, that's all for me. Love and kisses? I'm just trying something new. Yeah, anyway, so kill your men. Goodbye! It is a beautiful day here on the fine planet of Vicodin. It is, misty as always, heavy cloud cover, but similar to anyone who's ever lived on the coast, particularly like a Vancouver or Seattle kind of zone, there's like good gray days and like bad gray days. So this is one of those ones where the clouds are beautiful, sort of white, fluffy mist. It's refreshing, like being in a Pepsi Cool zone. And generally speaking, it's a tremendously good day for the execution of a traitor, which, Tyler, is where you find yourself. One of the men from your unit, who you recognize as an incredibly, what you would have said, like a very good soldier. He's very good. His name is Gareth Scarhouse. And Gareth is honestly like someone you've always been kind of happy to be assigned to units with. He's tenacious. He follows orders, and as you have established, you care very deeply about. He gets the job done. and he gets the job done the way the job should be done, which is something that you quite respect. And so you find it odd that this man who you respect and trust with your back on the field is up on the block about to be shot for being a traitor. The entire regiment is in attendance as the commissar, the sergeant of the unit, Flavius Septimus, sort of stands there and addresses the crowd. You are, of course, one of the glorious Regals, an Imperial Guard regiment that, for your taste, is a little overdone in terms of how you dress. For us, think if you've ever seen like the outfit that Prince Charles wears, or William or Harry when they were on like official duty, where it's got like a bunch of epaulets, like weird cord everywhere, bright red, kind of flared, kind of like junk hugging skinny pants. Into kind of like riding boots. It's basically your standard issue uniform is essentially a dress uniform. That said, the unit is flush. So what you find frustrating about the outfit is made up for by the fact that you've got pretty good toys. And always top of the line las weapons, generally top of the line gear. You've seen other units, and I think, Tyler, you may have interacted with them on the battlefield where, it's much more like World War II Russian stuff, where it's like, well, you get the ammo clip and you get the rifle. When he dies, you pick up his gun and you slam that ammo clip in, and if you need to clean it, you got to pee in it. Whereas yours are, generally speaking, like much, much more effective, efficient weapons. So you kind of put up with the stuffiness of the uniforms in order to get access to good stuff. So again, you're standing with your squad mates. Of late, you've been on a weird rotation where you've been bumped kind of from squad to squad, and you've noticed this happening kind of across the regiment. There seemed to be a lot of sort of almost deck shuffling going on. But again, not really your concern. The sergeant assures you that this is in the best interest of the unit, and the orders are coming from the commissar, and all's well. But all does not, in fact, seem to be well, as Scarhouse is marched up to the block. Tyler, what do you look like as you stand here on this glorious day?
I look bulky, especially in this form-fitting attire.
I will say, based on models I've painted in past, you can have modified this. I think you likely have like a dress jacket in a rucksack somewhere just in case you need it. But feel free, don't be stuck to that.
Yeah. I do have armor more suitable for combat, but as this is a ceremonial execution, I'm assuming this is kind of the fatigues that you wear when you're going to watch someone get shot in the head, not when you're going to be on the front lines.
Sure.
Staring down some orcs. But I have a large, like oversized mechanical right arm. It is longer than my natural left arm, and it comes to end in just a giant fist, like a wrecking ball of a fist. And I am... the things people say about me is that I'm about 4.5 feet tall and about 4 feet wide. It's not entirely true, but it is the impression that I give. I am just an angry little wide wad of meat that has been packed into this frilly, fancy suit that I cannot wait to get out of.
Cool.
So I'm kind of fidgeting in my ranks.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say a lot of people are fidgeting with you. It's an uncomfortable outfit. Great. Okay. So you're standing there when Private Shortsight, one of the newest members of your squad, kind of shuffles over to you. Not by any effort of yours. The private, who has a real name that everyone has just forgotten because of his massive, like comically big dud glasses. He was called Private Shortsight pretty much from when he arrived. He has kind of taken you as in the way that a small yappy dog runs around a giant dog in cartoons as kind of his mentor and protector, despite your best efforts.
That actually makes a lot of sense because I wear glasses too. I wear like those thick-rimmed military issue glasses that are purely functional or form.
Amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So he literally saw in you a a companion. So he shuffles up, and he just kind of tugs on your sleeve, and he says, "I can't believe it. I mean, Gareth seemed really good. I watched him kill 3 orcs with his bare hands a couple days back. What do you think this is all about?"
And I'll we're like, are we like at attention or are we kind of like socializing?
Yeah, it's everyone. There's a bit of awkward pomp and circumstances. Everything gets set up. Also, I think based on my understanding of the Imperial Guard, executions for treason and desertion aren't that irregular. Like it's not like, oh shit, like it's not like, General Organa is like, all right, we're executing a rebel. It's like, no, this is. Okay, like we'll snap to attention for the 3 minutes it's going to take for him to put a slug in this guy's head. But for now, it's everyone just kind of standing around being a little uncomfortable that this is happening.
Yeah. So I'll look to. I'm sorry. What was his name?
He's everyone is just taken to calling him Private Shortsight.
Right. So I'll say. Well, I don't know, Shortsight, why exactly, Gareth, what's his rank? I mean, it's not going to matter in 10 minutes, but what's his rank?
I'm so poor on military ranks that whatever I say is going to be wrong. He's a rank and file soldier, but I would say he's like
corporal.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Private.
He's working his way up. Yep.
You can go with trooper if you want to be generic.
Yeah, that'll work. Yeah.
Sure.
I'll just say, I don't know why Trooper Scarhouse is up there. I agree. I mean, he did his job, and he killed a good many orcs. But we'll see what they have to say about him in a minute.
With that, the sergeant Flavius Septimius steps up. And this is a man who looks like he was born to wear this stupid uniform. He would be like he's who you would cast as like the snooty British boyfriend of a main character in a rom-com, who we know she's going to ditch eventually for the actual male lead. But perfectly coiffed blonde hair, kind of like walks, less a walk, more a strut. And I think by your estimation, Tyler, a fairly soft-looking guy for the army. Like just in terms of like the way he carries himself, definitely someone who commands from the rear and does not has likely not gotten into a trench in some time.
Okay. So for celebrity casting, Patrick Wilson.
Yeah, I'd say like Patrick Wilson or the blonde dude from. He's like the alternate love interest in Devil Wears Prada. He was in, I think, early edition. Anyway, just very like, soft-featured, like nice-looking guy you'd like to hang out with, maybe date, but like also in terms of an Imperial Guard regiment. And I would say that generally you found that most of the leaders of the Glorious Regals kind of meet this mode. So he kind of struts up to the front and kind of calls for attention. So everyone snaps too, and just says. I know you're all wondering why we're here today. We're here because someone was a traitorous son of a bitch, and we gotta deal with it. And as a result, Gareth Scarhouse, of indeterminate rank, I am here to deliver the imperial justice to you. And there's like general mumbling of like assent. And he says, as is custom, you will be allowed one last line of sentence. Some kind of declaration before we put a slug in you. Go ahead. And they kind of like loosen the gag. And Gareth, who I think we'll say is like a Gerard Butler in his prime Gerard Butler type, he just says, I have committed no treason. I fought with my brothers, my sisters, my people. We killed many orcs. I don't understand why. And he says, that's enough out of you. All you need to know is that we have declared judgment upon you, and may the Emperor have mercy on your black soul. And then Flavius shoots him in the back of the head, and his head explodes as the bolt around enters it, spraying brain and teeth into the courtyard. And as the body kind of slumps to his knees, he says, "Remember, there are things more important than just killing orcs. We're here with a mission, and I expect you all to do it. Now, let us all say the cheer of the Glorious Regals." Tyler, what is the cheer of the Glorious Regals?
The cheer of the Glorious Regals. So that I think because of these fancy uniforms that they have and stuff like that, the cheer is something along the lines of for the glory of the Emperor, ours is an impeccable might. That's what it is.
Great. So he leads it with great gusto. You can tell he loves saying it. And as is the way with a lot of these things, for the glory of the Emperor piece goes real fast. And then he spends a lot of time on ours. And with that, the ceremony is done, and you're all kind of sent back to the mess. That said, you can hear someone calling your name. There seems to be sort of an administrator of some sort, military administrator, but administrator nonetheless, wandering the crowd with one of those like metal clipboards covered in skulls because 40K. Just kind of like calling out a few names, and there's some people following them. But then you hear your name carrying on the wind. Tyler, what is your character's name?
The name Atticus Viz gets called out. And Atticus will turn around and right, what's all this then? And like see, and kind of go to see what's going on. As he turns, we get a better look of him. I realize I kind of described his basic shape, but his facial features consist of a great big like soup strainer mustache that flows into big thick mutton chops. He's bald on top. And his basic general facial features and demeanor are those of Les Grossman, like the big fat angry guy played by Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder. He's got nasty like blast scarring across the right side of his face. It looks indicative of whatever caused his arm to not be there anymore. Also kind of happened to the side of his head a little bit. He's balding, just like Les Grossman, and in the way that you know that that's Tom Cruise in a fat suit, just everything about Atticus is like a little extra dense. Like he's just got a couple inches on him everywhere, like in his like his one like handed like sausage fingers, his huge fucking metal arm with that's too long for his body. Not that it's like dragging on the floor, but like it goes down to like his like it ends like just above his knee as he's walking around, whereas his regular, your regular hand ends at about your thigh. So he's a little extra proportioned everywhere. So he's kind of larger than life that way, even though he's only 4.5 feet tall.
Listen, Tyler, you really made us walk around to imply that your character has a huge cock. You can just say it up front and we'll all get it.
He's got blast scarring over his navel, so we don't know. We don't know what's going on down there.
There's like another robot arm with
that's
a
a season 2 secret down there. Yeah.
Like any of these characters are going to survive to season 2. It's going to be called like fucking Steve the New Guy Heresy by then.
Yeah. Season 2. Tom tells the news story. It's
season 2, Private Short Sight in over my head. Cool. Also, great. That's fantastic, Tyler. Thank you for that. I'm going to upgrade Flavius to a commander. I made him a sergeant, and I feel like that's dumb. So now he's a commander. Field promotion. Sergeant commander.
Just
he used
real
to be
good shooting there, Flavius.
Oh no, the Glorious Regals are similar to how Starbucks points work now. They're a big fan of just giving you a bunch of titles to make you feel more important. So, he's technically a commander, but they also made him a sergeant commander so that he could stay at the commander level for a long time without a pay raise, but feel like he's advancing.
Yeah, he's the impeccable sergeant commander Vlavius.
Yes, exactly. That's very funny. That sounds like a Wes Anderson movie, and I kind of want to see it now. The impeccable sergeant commander. Oh, God, I hate him so much.
I would love to see a 40K movie directed by Wes Anderson.
Dun, 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 dun. Blam, 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 wah! Yeah, it's just Bill Murray sitting there disaffectedly, lit really well, being like, wah?
Bill Murray is Gaskell Thraka.
They just make fucking Jason Schwartzman a Necron, and they just paint him silver, but he's just still like, hi, I don't know, I come back sometimes. This movie's great. I want it. Anywho, the administrator looks over and is kind of like clearly like looking around trying to find you, but everyone else is kind of like a shoulder above you. So of all people, it's Private Shortsight who takes off his hat because he's wearing a big floppy hat, and he waves it aggressively. And the administrator comes over and says, "Are you? No, I don't believe you're who we're looking for." And then he points to you, Atticus.
Who's calling out for Atticus Viz?
Says, yes, Trooper Viz, very good. Thank you. You have been transferred yet again, I'm afraid. We have a rather important mission coming up, and we will be requiring your services specifically. Assuming you are, of course, up to the task of, how did the commander put it, punching some orc sumbitches to death.
Yeah, I believe that's on my resume.
Excellent. I didn't want to have to look up your resume, so this is very good news for me. Excellent. Well, then, if you could follow me, please. And poor Private Shortsight's like, I can punch some bitches as well. And she just shakes her head and says, you will not be needed on this particular mission, Private. Goodbye. And she begins to lead you away. Do you think you'd say anything to Shortsight before you go?
Yeah, I'll give him a pat on the back with my big mechanical arm kind of way too hard, and I'll just
He's
say,
like,
don't worry about it, Shortsight. We all serve the Emperor in our own special ways. I'm the guy who punches the orcs. You'll figure yours out one day.
Thanks, mister. That means a lot coming from you. Go get him for our most impeccableness. Yay! And you like he's being swallowed by the crowd.
Yeah, like I'm not going to miss having to say that every day.
So you were marched through the camp, getting I think like friendly nods from people as you go. Again, for some reason, the Glorious Regals seem to constantly be shifting units, so this is a fairly regular occurrence, and it means that you've actually worked with a bunch of these people at various times. They're just not necessarily people you're on a squad with for too long. So you are kind of brought to an operations tent, and you can see a bunch of troopers like taking off their stupid like formal gear and just like tossing it on bunks. And if I could kind of give you a general impression of these guys, this is like the Predator squad from Predator, where it's just like a bunch of fucking beefcakes who are all like hard ass, tough as nails soldier types. Yeah. Admittedly, people you feel very comfortable around, as you are one. But what you do find strange is they all seem to know each other, whereas you actually haven't met any of these guys before. But they're all clearly like stripping down and getting into their like combat fatigues. And you're greeted by the sort of squad commander who comes over. She kind of comes strolling over to you. And similar to you, she's got sort of two bionic legs in like a real kind of hardcore 40K like mech suit. Like these aren't built for beauty; they're built for function. So almost like mech legs. And she kind of comes stomping over. I think visually, think like Jesus, who am I thinking of here? Think like Michelle Yeoh. If she'd like been on the front for a long time. So similarly, like blast scarred, like muscly, and with these sort of like, we'll say, back back-hinged robotic legs, just so they're cooler. And she says, "You're Viz?"
That's right.
Excellent. I am fucking field commander. I don't know fucking military ranks, and I hate making them up. So she's the commander of the
all
squad.
the same. Viz is low rank.
It's a good call.
He'll salute.
So her name is Karasit Skullcrawler, and she's like, "I'm Sergeant Skullcrawler, and this is my unit. I understand you've been transferred here, and I appreciate you coming in such short notice. As you can see, we're the ones who do the heavy lifting, and from what I've heard, you are quite good at that. Is that correct?"
Heavy lifting is one of my strengths. Yeah.
Excellent. So take a couple seconds, gear up, get out of that ridiculous uniform, and be ready to deploy in about 10 minutes. We're being sent to the front.
Oh, I'd be only too happy to, ma'am. And I take off the uniform, which had to be like the sleeve had to be removed for it to like accommodate my giant mechanical arm. And I put on much more familiar, much more comfortable clothes. These are my combat fatigues and chest carapace that I have. Enforcer light carapace. Just want to get like the like the book definition of it down right. But I have some features here that actually affect like stats, but also like what it visually looks like. So this has been customized with spikes for when I'm taking melee damage. I kind of deal some back a little bit when I'm taking hits like that. I also have a feature called Intimidating Design, which is I have customized this armor to strike fear into my enemies, or enemies of the Empire. And so what it is a sensationalized, sort of sensational historical depiction of the God Emperor wielding his like sword of light, and the beams of light coming off of it are causing like the hordes of chaos to like recoil and reel in fear of his holy righteousness. And the beams they're carved into my armor and they come out and they form the spike. So each beam of light comes out to actually form like a 3D spike at the edges of my armor.
That's rad as hell.
And it's
I'd
just
paint
very
the shit out of that.
It's very crudely carved in like a rock carving almost onto this carapace, and then kind of haphazardly like painted, not with like brushes, probably with like finger, and not probably with like paint, but whatever liquid I could get to put color into it, kind of thing. And it's seen a lot of battle, but I keep it on me.
And you did the carving yourself, and
I did the carving
yourself.
myself.
Okay,
yeah,
great, excellent. All right, fantastic. And what is your weapon of choice?
It is my right
Smashy
fist. Coming at the end of it, I actually have a power fist installed onto it.
You sure do.
So I do a lot of smashy crushy with it. I also have a suppression shield that I carry on my left side. It's like a riot shield. And I have holstered on my hip a hand cannon.
Great. Okay, love it. So looking around, you're seeing like honestly people who would be similar to the role Marnie fit in her unit. Like you got someone with like a heavy bolter, and she's just clearly like checking, doing that all the badass weapons training shit, but for like big guns. There's a couple of sort of slender guys wearing what looks to kind of be stealth camo with like sniper rifles, like long range needle rifles, and then just a few people with las guns. One guy actually carrying a bolter. It's very big for him, but he's hoisting it. But truly looking around, this does look like a hard squad. Is there any preparations you would make other than stripping down your armor before you go?
Maybe just observing the other people in my new unit. Is there? Do we have an insignia or a name that I would be made aware of if I'm moving from the Glorious Regals to a new unit?
So the Glorious Regals are the entire. It's the entire guard outfit.
Oh, okay.
So they're.
So they're still Glorious Regals.
They are, but within them, we will call them the. Just looking at my names here. One sec. Actually, yeah, we'll just go with the Skull Crawlers. They're named for their sergeant. She's I think once you hear the name, like you've definitely heard of her. She's seen a lot of combat and is one of those soldiers who is clearly trained with other guard units. There's a bunch of exchange programs to like make sure that everyone is reaping the benefits of each other's training. And honestly, I think you almost have a bit of a sigh of relief knowing it's her leading this unit, because for at least this mission, you actually have competent people on your side, which isn't always the case with the Regals.
I think that's what Atticus would be doing, is kind of sizing up the people that he'll be sharing a foxhole with.
Yeah, fair enough. I'd say a lot of the rank and file troopers, much like kind of a lot of the Imperial Guard units, they're trained, they're well-meaning, but they're also meat for the grinder. Like there's, the joke back when I was playing was that we always called lasguns flashlights because they just aren't, they're not really that strong, but they are cheap and easy to make. And anyone can fire one. So you're used to that. And honestly, Private Shortsight falls into that realm. Someone who clearly was either conscripted or enlisted because that was their best bet, but they're not, they're not who you necessarily want, and you can't get that attached to them because the odds of them surviving are very low. These fuckers, on the other hand, look like an unpleasant bunch, but weirdly, they're kind of more like you. And what you've seen is usually every unit has a you or a Gareth or one of these guys. And it's nice to actually be assigned to a unit that's all these guys. Because it seems like something might actually get done. For context, Atticus, you've been with the Glorious Regals your whole life. You've seen action on a few different worlds before finally being sent here to Vicodin. This was said to be a high priority mission, particularly as the Khazarkin stormtroopers were pulling out. And it was a great honor to be handed this after them, because the Cadian troops are incredibly well respected throughout the army. And honestly, for you took this as almost a personal victory because of the kinds of fighting you were doing. Clearly, the Glorious Regals were being handed this opportunity as you're coming up in the world. Which is pretty good. I think we can also safely say that the Regals are a newer regiment. That the planet you hail from, the planet of Publius.
Sorry, Publius?
Publius. Pubius.
Not Poopius.
No, that's a different planet in a different
Pubis.
sector. No, Publius. The planet Publius only recently kind of reached the threshold for being allowed in. So I'd say you're kind of like probably second generation of people who've been brought through the Regals. So it's still pretty new, but war is never ending. Hail the Emperor, so on and so forth. Forces of chaos up to no good. So again, truly an honor and kind of a nice, hard-looking squad. Once you've sized them up, Tyler, you can roll me please let's see, what kind of check do we think this would be? Just kind of for getting a sense of the capabilities of these folks. I'm almost inclined to say like a streetwise, but you may not have any streetwise because you're a military guy. I would also take, well, actually, if you're sizing them up, are you sizing them up for skill or equipment, do you think?
Skill.
Okay, so let's go with, I guess let's just go with either perception or discipline.
I'll do discipline.
Discipline, great.
Yeah. Hands down.
So we'll say this is a difficulty of 2. We're going to give you a boost dice for the fact that everyone, there doesn't seem to be any skullduggery here. Everyone is just legitimately getting ready for a mission. So you're just, I think, observing, how well do they know their weapons? They look hard, but what manner of people are these?
Okay.
And that's it from my end.
Okay.
Oh, in terms of story points, for this one, we'll say 2 and 2.
Okay. 1 success, 1 advantage. Sorry, 4 successes, 1 advantage.
That is a much different roll.
Yeah.
Okay, so looking around, with 4 successes particularly, they all know their way around. Nothing's for show. Everything is practical. In fact, weirdly, with your armor, you are the showiest person here, which is rare in your experience. Of course, your showiness has tactical necessity, but nevertheless, it is strange. I'd say with your advantage, you notice that they do seem very cold in a way that professionals tend to be, but after being with rank and file for so long, it's actually kind of strange. And I think, Atticus, that might actually be more of a have you gotten soft question than anything to do with these guys, because like between short sight and Gareth and everything else, like it's just odd to be in a room full of hard asses again.
Okay. Yeah. I grew up kind of with hard asses and really gritty fighters on Publius. So the break would make me consider if the glorious Regals were having kind of a negative influence on me in terms of my combat effectiveness. So I'll ask the nearest guy. I'll just gesture to him and say, "Hi, I'm the new fresh meat. Name's Atticus V's. Do you know what this assignment is all about?"
He turns around and we'll say he's a like a Terry Crews looking motherfucker. He's one of the guys who's actually carrying just like a Marine style bolter. And on a Marine it looks small. On him it looks big, but he's handling it well.
Yeah.
And he just smiles and says, welcome aboard. Name's Dyrath Vardar and Vadar. And welcome to the Skull Crawlers. It's nice to have fresh meat that looks like he knows how to punch. The Sergeant Skullcrawler was just telling us before you showed up. It would seem that we've got a report of a unit of knobs, those big orcs with the extra gear. It seems a bunch of them have formed a mob of some sort and seem to be running around. They seem to be after some high priority target. We don't know what it is. We have no reports out of that area of anything of note. But, if it's enough to send a bunch of their hardest guys out, then must be something worth having. Besides, seems like a pretty good opportunity to take a bunch of high-powered assholes off the board. So one of ours bid it on the last mission, so we're glad to have you on board. It's always nice to see someone who comes with the right armaments, and he kind of like taps your arm with the bolter.
And I'll like kind of flex it and just say, "It's gonna feel real nice making a difference again."
Yeah, what you've been having trouble with that? The rank and file Regals?
Well, look, all I know is I've been doing my job killing orcs, a lot of orcs, and yet we're still here, and they're still here. So someone on the line or higher up ain't doing their job. Now, if we're asking to kill some special orcs, that might push us in the right direction.
And he kind of like pats you on the robot arm, and he's just like, "Well, good news is Skullcrawler knows what she's doing, so you don't have to worry about that here."
Perfect. And I'll walk out.
Great. As you walk away, he reaches into his like admittedly very manly side pouch / purse, and he pulls out 2 cigars, and you walk away. He's like, "Well, more for Dyrath." And then he just puts both of them in, lights them both, and begins to chop 2 cigars like a hard ass military guy in an 80s movie. You may have noticed the theme. So with that, Karasit, Skullcrawler comes out, and she proceeds to give you pretty much that same rundown. Intelligence from the scouts up front is that there's a unit of knobs, highly irregular for this army. We don't know what they're looking for, but they're too valuable to not go after, and if there is something worth having, we should have it, not the orcs. So basically the plan is we're basically loading up essentially, Ryan, you would know the proper name for this. There is an open-topped, like, shitty, like, basically flatbed truck for the Imp Guard, right?
Yeah, there's a couple different, but they have scout versions of like chimeras or salamanders, I think they call them. There's like a scout salamander that's open tops. It's like a tank with like a driver, but it's like a tank truck.
Yeah, so the idea is that they're basically taking something with heavy metal up front to take the hits, but it's really is like a drive-in. It's going to basically spin around. You guys dump out, and the goal is
get out quickly and easily. So
100%, kind of like the Normandy invasion, right? Like the goal is there are a lot of orcs, and the ability for these knobs to disappear back into a mob is actually pretty easy.
Right.
So the goal is very much like once we get the location, we're just driving straight at them, dump you all out. You guys go to work. And then the vehicle will provide cover from kind of the rank and file as you do it. So as she kind of looks around, you have noticed that there is a lack of melee fighters in this unit. Obviously, Skullcrusher has like pretty great capability of like fucking kick fighting with these massive hydraulic legs. But you can see she also carries a modified flamer that seems to like she can basically, with the amount of hardware she's got, turn herself into a turret essentially, because like she can just plant and fire without really worrying about recoil. So she's got like a heavy bolter on one side, a flamer on the other, and you get the sense she'd probably be fine up close, but why bother when you could use your back jointed legs to mow the field. So with that in mind, it comes as no surprise when Skullcrawler says, so our fresh meat's going to be running up front. I assume you've had that arm long enough to be good with it. How are you with that shield?
Oh, yeah. I mean, shield's been incredibly helpful. Keeps my face pretty.
And there's like assorted chuckles, and she's like, well, we're a bunch of pretty mugs around here, as you can see, so that's good. I know you just joined us, so I don't want to put you in a position you'd feel uncomfortable with, but how do you feel about being the first through the breach?
That's where I'm most comfortable.
Good man. So she kind of like points out a few people. Basically, Dyrath is supposed to like kind of stay over your shoulder with the bolter. She and the other heavies will kind of hold from further back. Part of your job is to distract them from the snipers getting set up so that they can kind of essentially create like a nice kill vector. And then once you've enraged enough knobs, your job is basically, if we're talking in MMO terms, got to get in there, pull the aggro, and then book it back to the track so that they can basically just shoot everyone who's chasing you. Because odds of you killing a few of these guys, very high. All of them, less high. So with that, they're ready to go. Do you have any last minute preparations you want to attend to?
No. Atticus is ready to die for the Emperor.
Fair enough.
At the Emperor's earliest convenience.
And Tom, I jumped online just to check. If they're well equipped, they'd probably take a Scorpius Dune Rider. It's an AdMech vehicle, but it's literally the tank version of the boats from Normandy. It's a giant rectangle that drives forward and the front drops and everybody storms out.
Perfect. Yeah. Beautiful. Thanks, Ryan. I knew you'd have my back. There's one other thing, Tyler, just before you get in, you see Karasit kind of eyeing your arm and looking like a little uneasy about it. And she comes over and she's like, listen, you've been working with the rank and file for a while. When was the last time you got that thing properly tooled up?
It's rest assured, the arm works just fine.
I'm sure it does. I'm just wondering if it's working as efficiently as it could. And she like does like one of those cool things that only people with like incredibly dope prosthetics can do, where she just kind of like double hinges her legs in some interesting ways. She's like, we have access to some incredible upgrade packages. Have you ever received one of those?
Well, I did get one, and that's where this little beauty came from, and I flex like the power fist at the end of my arm. I don't really know how it works, Mom. I just know that it works.
So she yells to someone, and like a very enthusiastic young mechanic rushes up, and she just kind of like nods to you and slaps you on the metal arm. She's like, "We roll out in 5 minutes. make sure his fist punches extra good. And she wanders off. So the small mechanic pulls out what looks to be a limited charge pack. And she's like, so, hi, my name is, yep, oh, thank you, yes. My name is, looking at my sheet.
Enthusiastic little mechanic. Is her name Balto?
Sure, let's call her Balto. Love it.
Work our way down the alphabet.
Yeah, I like it. She's like, hi, I'm Balto, and I'm very excited to help you punch things. Listen, this unit will overcharge your fist, so it'll be extra punchy. I should warn you that you'll only get one charge out of it, so make sure it's when you really want it. But, if you're leading the charge, it should make that first punch extra good.
Right, so use it on the first punch. Is that the order then?
That's what I would recommend, because from what I've learned from watching boxing documentaries, it would seem that the first punch, if you can knock out your opponent, means you will not need a second one. But yes, this will charge up your first punch, or whichever punch you decide to use, in a really cool way, and then you'll just be stuck with normal punching.
Well, all right, not for nothing, but I found that the last punch is most decisive when it comes to fights.
I was kind of hoping your first would be your last, sir. But that's up to you.
Find out, and I'm just like ready to go. Like I'm
Great.
like.
So she plugs it in, and essentially it just like mechanically she explains what in 40k terms would be like. It's going to overcharge your fist. In like us as players terms, it'll essentially give you 2 free boost dice on the first punch if you choose to engage it.
Okay.
Is it activated by doing a Henry Cavill arm reload?
Oh, you're goddamn right it is. You got to roll up your sleeves first, though. That's very important.
Thankfully, my center of gravity is low enough that doing the arm reload doesn't just make me fall over on one side.
He died the way he lived, on one side, punching the ground. Now he's the Witcher. Okay, great. So with the upgrade pack installed, you board the Scorpius, I believe you said, Ryan?
Yeah, Scorpius Dune Rider.
Yeah, the Scorpius Dune Rider.
Like a person, like a cool person.
Yeah, it sounds like a Harry Potter villain. I'm Scorpius Dune Rider. You get in. They put on the equivalent of. It wouldn't be Ride of the Valkyries. I'm thinking more.
It'd be Iron Maiden's The Trooper.
Great, love it. Yeah, fantastic. And with that, the driver sitting in the back's like, hi everybody, I'll be your captain for today. We will be cruising at an altitude of the ground, and we'll be driving deep into Orc territory. It seems to be fine weather for a drive, though, so just sit back, relax, and enjoy some Trooper. Blast the Trooper, floors it, and with a joy, I think, that you only really get from riding into combat. You kind of feel the excitement. There's sort of cheering going up from the Regals around you. You think you can see Short Sight, like, waving.
I mean, if I really climb up to see that edge, I can, yeah.
Fair enough. And before you know it, you're riding out into the field. The vehicle proves to be not tremendously dexterous. It's just kind of plowing its way across no man's land. Luckily, the call for a barrage came at the same time to kind of buy you guys some time and space. So there are other actions going on around the field to distract from like the one vehicle kind of infiltrating. Plus the no man's land at this point is a mess. Like as we talked about, there's kind of like a blasted line. There's like walls that have been like improvised 40k space walls that have been landed, which just look like cool metal things. But sure enough, soon you see Sergeant Skullcrawler kind of pointing, and you can see there's literally a gap in the wall. And you can see the sort of look of arc torches burning through it. And sure enough, there's you can see some orc activity behind it. She's like, "All right, everybody, this is what we waited for. Let's go get those knobs." She goes, "God, it's such a stupid name. I hate saying it." So she calls a halt. The vehicle slams into a halt. The front flips down. And with a combined yell of like "Oorah!" the heavy weapons guys flip over the sides, and you can see orc activity on the far side of the wall. Atticus, it's time to go punch some orcs. What do you do?
I look up to the sky and I just turn around to the unit behind me and I say, "Sky of blue, sea of green, eh, boys?" And I just start running with my shield up and my arm and just yelling, "For the Emperor!" and just run.
Amazing. Immediately, like orc fire comes like pouring through the hole. You can feel like bullets pinging off the shield. Nice thing about orc armaments at this distance. Orcs, am I right? So you plow forward, and in front of you, you can see a couple of orc boys with like torches and the big like hilarious goggles. They're clearly trying to shear the wall, and one of them's like, "Pardon me, lads. Looks like big guy's coming. Wah." And he kind of grabs an axe and pulls it up. So far, no sign of the knobs, but like these guys are right there. What do you do?
What's the distance between me and these fellas?
You're rapidly closing, so you're just like charging across the battlefield. So you'll be within melee distance momentarily.
Okay. If I'm not there yet, I'll open by unholstering the hand cannon and trying to fire off. If they're using cutters, is it like fuel cut? Like do they have like gas tanks on
one
their
of them
backs?
does. So basically, just to be clear, there is already an existing gap, but it looks like they're trying to make it bigger. And so
I guess I don't want to blow that guy up and maybe risk blowing up the wall some more.
I will also
So
say,
I'll
Tyler, I did intend for kind of this action to be like, if you want to be within melee distance, you can be.
I'll just run up on him then.
All right, great. So you run up. There's two boys like directly in front of you. They're pretty hardy looking orcs. One is using the blowtorch to cut the wall. The other has picked up a choppa that's like a two-handed something you'd make in like Dead Rising 2. Like it's just got like it's almost like a Klingon
The paddle saw from
paddle
Dead
saw
Rising.
kind of thing. Yeah, but if the saw blade went all the way down, so
Okay.
it's kind of got a big rounded edge, and he kind of steps into the way and says like, "Sky of green, orcs of shit. All right, let's go." What do you do?
I'm running with the shield up and the arm is already cocked back, and it's just a matter of getting close enough for this thing to extend out and
Great,
and land the first punch.
you're within range.
Okay, I punched that first guy so fucking hard. I'll use the boost as directed by the smarty pants know-how mechanic. Atticus, again, as long as everyone does their job, we'll be fine. So if the person whose job is to make his arm stronger says first punch is best, that's what he's going to do.
First punch best. All right, go for it. So it's a melee attack. So that's 2 purple. From my end, you've got. I think based on like how you've just been dumped in and the fact that they're scrambling, I'll say I don't think there's any setback dice for this because like why would there be? They're just getting up and ready. He does, the orc you're about to punch is wearing enough armor that'll have to add 1 setback dice just for his gear. In this case, not so much armor as like giant saw blade that's hard to punch past. Okay. And then the rest is over to you there, bud.
Sorry, the Power Fist has a bunch of extra little things with it, so I just want to make sure I'm getting it all right.
Great.
Okay. Oh my god. Okay. I'll have to remember that special thing. The Power Fist is nuts, guys. So that's 3 successes, 2 advantages, 1 triumph for my first punch.
At least it would be if all the power in your arm didn't go out. As you swing it forward, there's an electric blast that carries throughout the entirety of your arm. And suddenly, where you're expecting to be carried forward with a classic Falcon punch, suddenly you have dead weight that just collapses, causing you to like wrench backward. The orc in front of you looks shocked, and that's when you hear the call behind you to open fire. So the Skullcrawler unit is opening fire on you. The orc is only carrying melee. Your arm is dead. What do you do?
Now they're opening fire because I'm supposed to lure the orcs back. Like I'm the decoy.
That is the plan. But the fire, you seem to be fully in the kill zone. Like they're opening fire directly, kind of at you and the breach.
Then I guess I push further forward to get through the breach.
Can you roll me an athletics check, please?
Yeah.
We'll say difficulty of 4 because your arm is damn heavy if it isn't powered. You're gonna kill that mechanic.
And I'll use
Story point.
I'll use 2 story points if I can.
You can only use 1, I'm afraid.
I thought we could use a bunch. Okay, 1 then, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Thank you. So that's 3 advantages.
Okay, yeah. So I think 3 advantage is enough for you to kind of like wrench the arm forward and kind of throw yourself behind the like into the breach, but kind of behind the barriers. Mm-hmm. So weirdly, now you're on the orc side, and quickly looking around, there's these 2 orcs, and like there's a couple of others who are like grabbing their like they're the 2 who are firing through. There's not a knob in sight. This looks like just like 5 orcs, and obviously the orc line behind them. But they all kind of point at you and are like, ah! So they start to ready their weapons. Meanwhile, fire is pouring through. So one of them gets blown away by heavy bolter fire. And you hear Dyrath just yell, "Come on, man, this will be a lot easier if you don't run."
I just shout over the wall, "Who's running? Come and get me."
Fair enough. And you hear Skullcrawler be like, "You heard him. Go get him." And the troops begin to move. Meanwhile, the orcs are upon you. So you have 1 orc with a close combat weapon, 1 orc with a blowtorch, and then there are 2 remaining since one just got blown away by blaster fire or by bolter fire. Meanwhile, looking around, you can also see there does seem to be on this side of the line, the ground seems to get a lot more uneven, a lot more broken up. There does seem to be sort of a crevice in the ground not too far from you. So I don't know if your plan is to try and fight the orcs and the skull crawlers without the arm. If it is, we can talk about what your options are there. But if you're looking to escape, you don't know what's down there, but it's probably better than this.
I'll have my shield up, kind of warding off whatever's attacking me at any given moment, and I will make my way over to the crevice, but I won't drop right away.
Okay, great. So if you could please go ahead with athletics again as you drag. The orcs seem momentarily confused whether they're meant to fight you or the people charging, screaming with guns. So you have bought yourself kind of a moment of clarity. They likely like fire 2 at you and then go back to firing through the gap. So the 2 ping off your shield. Let's see where you get to with the arm.
That's still 4 difficulty, right?
I'm going to say that since you succeeded quite handily last time, we're going to drop it to 3. This is less an immediate danger situation as well. It's going to be dangerous soon, but it's not as dangerous as all of the fire pouring through the gap.
1 advantage, 1 failure.
Okay. So you're making your way there. It's tough going, but with the advantage, you're able to kind of like keep the orcs at bay. You're nearing the gap when you hear a horrific twisting sound of metal as Karasit boots over the wall, a section of the wall, which crushes one of the orcs. And seeing you kind of like dragging your arm away with the shield up, she just sighs and says, "Again, real sorry about this. You just shouldn't have been that good." And then with her other leg, she boots the guy with the blowtorch at you, and whistles, and one of the snipers hits the tank. So with your failure, the tank explodes, blasting you and what's left of the orc into the crevice. You bash, you like pinball off a series of walls. So I'm going to need, please, from you, sir, a resilience check. Because this is fucking rough stuff. And I will also say you may have armor that will deflect a bit of this, but that will be 4 points of damage wound-wise from the explosion.
Can someone remind me again the difference between soak and defense?
You subtract your soak from injuries. Defense adds challenge die to your opponent trying to hit you.
Okay, so so defense doesn't come into account here then.
No, unfortunately.
Okay. Excuse me. Sorry, again, I've just got a bunch of stuff to look through. Just
Yeah,
to make
man,
sure that
you're
everything's
playing a
okay.
brand new character for the very first time. It is all good.
Okay. And you want that resilience check. At what difficulty?
Difficulty 3, please.
Okay. 5 successes, 1 threat.
All right, so you're a tough sumbitch. You ricochet off these walls pretty well. Eventually, kind of using the shield to kind of help wedge you a bit and kind of slow your descent. And finally, you fall kind of out of the bottom into a cavern. You fall for a not inconsiderable amount of time before hitting something metallic and banging off it, and then rolling, kind of doing a full arm flip down the side, before finally crashing off the edge of what seems to be an old transport vehicle of some sort, and landing in the middle of the small campfire that Valentyne and Marnie had set up. So landing in like a puff of ash and smoke, you kind of rise to your feet and see a massive woman holding a gun. Laura, what gun do you think you'd be? What gun do you sleep with? Like, what's the one you just always have on you?
I sleep with my hell gun.
Great. So hell gun pointed at you, as well as I assume Ryan, your pistol.
Yeah, I think by default the pistol would be raised.
Yep.
But the moment he sees it's a person, it's that like gun forward to like gun up. They just do that twist to the wrist so that it's no longer aimed.
And
I have to yell first, like, "Are you an orc?
No.
Are you sure?"
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to
Hello.
meet you.
Honestly.
My name is Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne. This is my new companion, Marnie Schwartzenberger, and we're going to save the Emperor. I believe you may have lost your way?
You're an Inquisitor.
Yes, that's true.
Is there any way you can prove that?
Well, I do have this, and he just produces his inquisitorial rosette, which is also the necklace. So it's got the symbol of the Inquisition, and he can like press a little button at its bottom, and it's like a little hollow pops up with like the inquisitorial logo.
At this, Atticus stands at attention with his mechanical arm dead at his side, but like as best as he can, he's standing at attention. And he just says, "It is an honor, sir. The Empire needs your help."
Well, I'm going to tell you that the Empire also needs your help, my friend, but I'm afraid we should probably leave because apparently people can fall from the ceiling. So maybe we should move on and then we can all get to know each other.
Yes, sir. It might behoove you to know that I came down here by way of treachery within the ranks of the Glorious Regals, a unit here on Vicodin.
Well, I pride myself on not lying to those that I'm going to ally with. You've now been seconded to the Inquisition, so you're free from your obligations to your former regiment.
Just chest puffs up, just so fucking proud right now. Can't believe he fell down into a cave and just got promoted to the Inquisition.
Wonderful. So we are going to remove the rogue trader that leads this world. But along the way, if we can sort out any treachery and heresy within your regiment, I promise we'll do our absolute best.
And with that, Valentyne, you notice there seems to be an override unit that has been plugged into his mechanical arm. So the same way you would like flick dirt off someone's shoulder, you go over and just kind of like tap it with your chainsword and flick it off of his arm. And it's slow to boot back up, but slowly the feeling comes back into your arm, Atticus.
It just comes kind of into shape, into a rigid form, kind of joining the rest of Atticus's body in a a stiff salute, like standing at attention. Yeah, actually, as the arm gains function, it like slowly it like jerks up to a
just do a
salute.
proper fucking naked snake finale.
Yeah, and he's just beaming. He's just so fucking happy right now. And he says, Inquisitor, my name is Atticus V's and I am at your service.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. And he'll pick up the override unit and then just like pocket it, because technically it's the only piece of evidence he has of the treachery against Atticus. And to say, all right, so our overall goal is to escape the battlefield, get behind lines and find me a medic, followed by defeat of a rogue trader. In the short term, we are being hunted by a group of knobs. Atticus, do you have any experience hunting or killing knobs?
Yes, I do, Inquisitor. Yes, I do indeed.
And
Marnie?
Marnie just kind of like looks at him, just like, yes. it's like and someone else who will kill orcs, kind of thing.
And it would seem, Valentyne, that after a particularly rough morning, it might in fact be a glorious day for the Emperor. After action report submitted by Sergeant Skullcrawler. Wasn't easy. He was a tough son of a bitch, but we got him. We always get him. Underneath, an important note is added, report so far unverified. So, in the caverns, beneath the rolling hills and glens of Vicodin, a new inquisitorial party has been born after the tragic loss of Alto, Lyric, and Haldren Blackhand, as well as Acri the pilot. Valentyne, you found yourself a willing and seemingly very capable inquisitorial unit, which is good because your immediate needs are great. You are badly wounded. You are wildly undersupplied, and time is ticking away rather quickly. So I'm going to say that, pardon me, my voice got all froggy for a second there. You and Marnie actually rested up for a night before setting off. So it's not like you met and then 5 minutes later a guy fell from the ceiling. As humorous as that would be, I hate coincidences like that an awful lot. So Ryan, you can go ahead and recover, we'll say 2 wounds from, I think, Marty, you've been keeping yourself alive for a real fucking long time down here. So
hell yeah.
His wounds are pretty egregious. So this isn't a permanent solution, but it is a not terrible temporary solution. And I also just don't want Valentyne to like fall over because of a stiff breeze in a few minutes.
Like Marnie's not that smart, but she knows enough to like
for sure,
field wounds.
And anyone who's also like realistically, anyone who's stayed alive this long on her own is fully capable of like. It may not be the most medically accurate way, but it's actually probably a pretty effective way. Just hurts a lot. It's fine.
Yeah.
Having spent a long time in Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, like digging bullets out of my shoulder and then just lighting a cigar to burn them shut. Like, it's cool. It's not smart science. It's science. Great. So the 3 of you are packed up and ready to go. Marnie, you've charged up your pack one last time from the depleted energy of your vehicle. Valentyne, is there any preparations you would do in the cave before setting back out?
He'd record an updated log of everything that happened in Eugene. Just for himself, not in terms of like committing his like crimes he's committed, but just in terms of like what the mission is and what needs to be stopped. Because I feel like Eugene is kind of his backup for a lot of things. Also, if Marnie had a bunch of bodies and loose armor and shit that she's been using for repair, if there's any way he could put together a suit of body armor, I think he would. He's been wearing like essentially like a carapace breastplate, which has been his like ceremonial armor that keeps him like protected while he's going around, but this is a friggin' war zone, so he would not object to like armored pants or a shirt trying to make a more full suit of carapace. I don't know if there's enough to do that. That's just something I think he'd look for.
Yeah, totally. So sorry, 1 second, I'm in the wrong doc here. Let me pull up my sheet. Ryan, I'm gonna say if you could please roll me I'm going to say a survival check to kind of piece together improvised armor. It won't be great, but it'll be something.
Cool.
Laura, how much of the gear have you cannibalized? How much do you think would still be left?
It's like bits and pieces. But I had my entire squad, right, to kind of pick from.
Yeah, but a few of them, like, I would argue a bunch of them died out of cave, like when you were out hunting. So yeah, but I mean, realistically, there were a bunch of suits of armor. So
Yeah, and I'm not like, I didn't like take like full pieces, probably like.
okay, so then Ryan, I'm going to say this is a difficulty of 1.
Okay.
Yeah, difficulty of 1. Also, because you're all back together for the first time, I'm going to say story points. We're going to stack 3 and 1 in your favor.
Cool.
I'm going to use a story point.
Thought you might. I will give you 1 boost dice for Marnie's help, given that she kind of, I think, as a military person who's been like living a weird castaway life, you probably have a pretty solid understanding of what is and isn't available here.
And I think I've been trying to like build the repair my armor pretty efficiently in case I had to keep going for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't think Atticus would be of any assistance necessarily because he just fell from the ceiling. Atticus, I will say you can recover 1 wound from kind of, I think, having the restraint off and just taking a quick breather while they piece together the armor. We'll say that the armor thing was happening overnight, but I just want you all to be a little fresh for what's next.
Just a casual stroll back to HQ, right?
Yeah,
perfect.
There's an elevator at the end of this. Honestly, it's just bad level design on my part. At the end, there's just an elevator straight to Glasgow Vicodin's office. And the entire
and the Emperor's
Confederacy is there. Yeah, everyone's there. Like, you walk in, the record skips, and they're like, oh no, we're guilty.
So
Tom,
like
I have a tremendously weird roll for you. I have 7 advantage, but 1 failure.
That is a tremendously weird roll.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
man, you find so much armor and don't know how to put it together, man. It's crazy.
Okay, so I think what we'll say with that then is I'll offer you a bargain of some sort, I think.
Of course.
Laura says disgusted.
Yeah,
These always turn out so well.
I mean, they could. Okay, here's what we'll do. Ryan, I will either give you +1 defense to ranged and melee, but it'll cost you half your strain.
Okay.
Or, yeah, actually, I think that's it. That's the deal. Largely because in thinking about, based on what Laura's already described of how Marnie's cannibalized the gear, it doesn't make sense to me that you wouldn't be able to piece it together. I think it's more so it doesn't fit. So you can wear it, it'll reduce your odds of being shot and killed, but it's like wearing an oversized breastplate. Like, it's like if you put on like a knight's breastplate and it didn't fit. So it's actually like kind of exhausting, and it's much different from what you'd normally. Also, they're stormtroopers, so like they're used to this. You haven't been trained for it, so yeah. Basically, it'll just so like half your strain to kind of pay for wearing it. Otherwise,
Done. He does not plan to get into combat. He is so injured that he's basically intending to use these two as they're meant to be used, which is they fight. He can shoot and kind of stay in the back because if he's up front, he's dead.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is basically like when the Secret Service has to throw a flak jacket like around someone. Like, it's like, there's no time for you to wear this. Just hold this tight. Great. So, so you get a big stupid. You manage to kind of. You look a little bit like a scrawny kid wearing football pads. Like, it's just everything's a little too big, but definitely for like basically not getting winged by a bullet that'll kill you. This is a good call.
Yeah, so he's a little Michelin Man-ish under his inquisitorial stormcoat.
Yeah, I'm thinking the stormcoat is kind of like mob dawn over your shoulder, like the shoulder pads now. So it's just kind of like weirdly hanging off you rather than looking like proper and cloakly.
Yeah, like give him a a cigar and he'd look like a bad Usarker Creed cosplay from Cadia. Deep cut model reference. I don't care that any of you know it, but it's a very good joke. All right, so
I know someone out there does. This is for you. Get at me with love, that model Twitter.
Yeah. So I'd say, yeah, his plan basically for moving forwards is he's just got his refractor field is off, but he's almost walking with his hand on the button to turn it on because it sparkles a little, so it blows stealth. So he has to walk without it if they want to sneak at all. But anytime, like if he hears like if someone coughs loudly, his refractor field is activating.
All right, awesome. So as you set out into the cave system, Marnie, you know the way back up to the surface because that's kind of been your jam for the last little while.
Oh, yeah.
But you're also where you're being hunted. What precautions do you think you would advise them on, and or Atticus and Valentyne? You're again like think very much a cave system with high ceilings. A lot of these kind of occasional glimpses of the sky through these kind of large vaulted ceilings that Atticus fell through. But I think by now you have, let's say, 3 routes back up to the surface. But what's kind of the order of operation? Well, basically, what's the plan for getting up there?
Valentyne would probably be like ready to activate his refractor field, and he'd be using his auspex that he has because he has his own auspex, which is like a scanner for the area to try to keep track of it. Like it's a cave system, so it's not perfect, but the idea is like it's the tracker from Alien. Is their movement, is their life sign? So I think he'd be more on a paranoid watch front and let them do like front and rear guard with weapons.
Yeah, Atticus would enthusiastically take point. Just as a shield or meat shield even for the Inquisitor.
Great.
Yeah, I think I would. You can guard the Inquisitor, but I think Marnie would be like, I know every single blind spot. I know every single position where we could be open. So it would just be like, me go first, spot around corner, ensure that like no enemies have infiltrated this cave system yet, and.
Okay,
she's very tactically.
So from an Overwatch standpoint, weirdly, I'm getting this idea kind of Valentyne essentially being like, you got to move the cargo. So he's like slowly moving.
He's the payload. Yeah,
he's the payload. Yeah. Thank you. Tyler is a good player in Overwatch, so he's on the payload.
Yeah.
And Laura, you're scouting up ahead, kind of knowing the system. In as much as if you needed to fall back, there's a punchy man like right there. So it's not. I think what ultimately your marching order will be, but for this particular scenario, it's 100% what it needs to be. Does that make sense, everyone?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. And Laura, my other big question for you is, over the years that you've been living here, would you have built like Schwarzenegger and Predator style traps throughout the cave system, do you think?
Of course, because I mean, she has to sleep at some point.
Yeah, fair enough.
And she wants to sleep soundly, you know? Mm-hmm. Marnie really she's like that classic military. It's like sleep. You have to like sleep when you can. So it's like it's basically like if she was an advanced character in The Walking Dead who made it to like season 10 and like has all of the traps set up.
Carol. She's just Carol. Like Carol. I've seen some shit and no walkers just show up. No, fuck off.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a new character thing to do.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's great. You'll get your own spin-off show when everyone else gets fired.
Because I think her squad would have had like integrated auspexes in their helms, I think she could have like jury rigged some like around the area to be like basically triggers.
Oh, that's fun. Sure. Okay. So, Laura, to establish how well, and again, I think the argument I'd like to make here is that it was tremendously good at some point. We're rolling to see what is left of it now at this point, after having like survived for so long and like, you know, in a classic like at one point it was perfect, but like people have triggered these things over the years. So like, let's see kind of what the state of it is.
Yeah,
so
fair.
let's go ahead and roll. I'm going to give you the option. It can be, I'll give you survival, tech use, or vigilance.
I'll take survival.
Okay. I'm going to say difficulty of 3.
Okay.
And to account for time, let's say 3 setback dice. Now, keep in mind, you aren't rolling to see if you're safe right now. You are leaving these caves, so it's not a huge deal if this roll goes badly. I'm just curious kind of what's left of your machinations.
Just checking to see if there's anything I can use to help with this, because my cunning is not very high.
I will say, no, I don't think they can help you on this one because this is really a you thing.
It is a me thing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, sometimes you just gotta roll the hard whatever that phrase is.
The hard, well, normally it's a hard 6, but given that these are like, sometimes you gotta roll the hard small triumph symbol and a couple advantage symbols, and ideally a success symbol.
Fuck me.
This sounds good.
We win.
2 failures, 2 threats, but at least there isn't a despair.
The Emperor is saved. You did it. You did it, everyone.
Oh, fuck.
Okay, so...
Sorry, guys.
No. This makes more narrative sense than anything else. As you're making your way through the caves, you can see, I think, Atticus and Valentyne. You're noticing that, like, Marnie's checking traps and stuff, but it's like... You can tell when like a spring-loaded spike trap has been like reset a few too many times. Like basically, it's the overused toothbrush of survival techniques where just everything is a little too threadbare and bald to really get the job done anymore. Because again, if you'll remember, like Marnie was basically like prepping for like, this is my last stand. So, you're on like in a survival wave game, like you're deep in the waves, but like it's cool. It's time to go. So unfortunately, a lot of these traps seem pretty busted. The auspices, you can see Marty kind of flicking them, trying to get them back on. They're like cracked helmets, and all of them seem to be powering down. Valentyne, this is concerning to you, I think, largely because with gear this worn down, the odds of the orcs already being down here are not insignificant. Atticus, I think for you would likely respect that these traps exist, but also that they're busted.
Yeah, I think it would spur the question, how long have you two been down here?
Well, I've been here about a day, and I believe Marnie's been here about a decade. So, varying distances.
Well, that explains it then.
All right, so I
Explains what?
Oh, the shape that these traps are in. Clearly, they've killed a lot of orcs.
I just kind of look around and like, yeah, they are bullshit.
All right, as long as we all agree. Now, normally I'd ask both of you questions about perhaps your goals, the future, etc. However, I do believe there are strong odds that the orcs are already in here, and this Auspex has incredibly limited range. We should probably focus on moving to a medic, obviously not from the glorious Regals. I would prefer someone unaffiliated with any regiment. Unfortunately, if one is turned, we can't know how many are involved. Can we get behind the wall? Can we get behind the lines? Is there some way we can do this without having to, for lack of a better term, throw around a rosette and let you shoot a few people?
Atticus, in your time with the Regals, you never went behind the laser field wall. From what you understand, and I'm sure you could convey this to everyone, but it's almost a feudal world in there with a few modern enhancements and that sort of thing. But if anyone has ever, this is like a really weird East Coast Canadian reference, but like there's an Alexander Keith's beer tour you can do in Nova Scotia where it's just like they all dress in old timey gear and pretend it's like the fucking distillery from then. You get the sense that the Vicodin factory is kind of that. It is very much meant to be a bit of a tourist destination. It's supposed to be like, we do things the old way, the right way. So no, the army is kept completely outside of that. So unfortunately, it's in terms of medics, you would know it's people on the base or not. Now that said, there's the base, there's the front line. There are a lot of different places that you guys can go that might not be as like. I think Atticus would have a hard time marching back into like HQ. But there's a lot of other places you could look without having to flash the rosette, just as something to consider.
Yeah, he'll convey that. He'll say the Vicodin distillery proper is something of a historical heritage site here, so it's been preserved. We don't have much personnel going in and out of there, but there are plenty of forward operating bases that we should be able to make contact with.
So from what I've understood, you were betrayed for being too effective against the Orks?
I mean, I don't know, sir. I know one of my mates, one of the fellow troopers, Gareth Scarhouse. He was a good soldier, but he was asking questions and snooping around about something, checking in on rumors. I wasn't really sure what happened or what he was looking into, but he was executed, sir. Very shortly after the fact, I found myself downrange of the Skull Crusher unit, and they were firing on me, telling me to come out and make it easier for them.
Are there any medics you're personally familiar with, or some forward operating base that you believe to be perhaps the most reliable?
I feel like Atticus would know some medics, given
For
his frontline position.
Yep.
Is there a name a name and a location that I can give to Valentyne here?
Yes. There is of the kind of various forward operating positions you've battled in. You distinctly remember Celeste Eris is a doctor, a combat doctor. She's a veteran of several campaigns. She's one of the old guard. And again, in terms of how you view people, definitely like knows her shit, is very good at it. And as a result has been at the front line, basically like helping people, like getting people prepped who are about to go out, fixing people who come back, and is just kind of like a gateway, but in one of the more active combat zones. So I haven't exactly mapped out like how all these combat zones work, but we'll say it's the forward operating base C, so FOBC.
And what was that doctor's name again, Tom?
Celeste Eris. So yeah, the other thing that you know about her, Tyler, that would probably lead you to think she might be the one to go to is, like you, she seems like someone who doesn't really give a shit about rank or tactics. She's just literally like, this is a horrible metaphor, but she's basically like a Subway sandwich artist who's just like, my job is to get you in and out of here as fast and efficiently as possible. I don't really care if the sub looks good coming out the other end. I'm just throwing all the meat and cheese on it, and here's all your fucking veggies. Get out. Next. Let's go. So if you had to just like sneak someone through, the odds of her just doing it, not asking too many questions, are very high.
Okay. Then I'll say Callist Eris is a good, reliable sawbones at forward operating base Charlie. She should be able to help you without asking too many questions. She's always quite busy. FOB Charlie sees an awful lot of action.
Well, FOB Charlie sounds like it's at the end of the lines, close to, shall we say, the knife's edge that we sit upon. Thanks, Emperor. Quite a place to put us. If we can get there, it'll probably be the shortest journey possible. And then we can get the treatment we need to move on to more important things, like saving the Golden Throne and the Imperium. So, we've got our target. We know where we're heading. We know where we need to go. Now let's just get there alive.
Yes, sir.
So, as you continue to move through the caves, unfortunately lacking any proper indicators of where orc activity might be, you finally start to reach the top. Now, I'm going to say, Marnie, you have 3 exits you've used over time. You have one that exits out onto the cliffs, sort of a high perch on the cliffs. You have one that exits out into what was once a kind of nice wooded area. Now it's been hacked down for supplies, but is still somewhat tree covered. But is known to be fairly active with orc activity.
Yeah.
And your initial one, which puts you out pretty much inside an orc encampment.
Yeah.
The orc encampment one was, I think, you had some very early success there, but they've definitely become aware of it. So you haven't used it in a couple years, but you are aware that it goes there. The forest is good because it has cover. However, orc war machines often roll through there, and there are constantly kind of gathering parties. The cliffs are easily the safest place to exit. However, they do require you to scale the remaining height of the cliff. And also based on what Valentyne has told you, it would seem that the orc air patrols are out in high number right now. Which of these 3 paths would you lead them through? Or would you open it up to them for their
I would open it up because Marnie is not the highest ranking person here.
Fair enough.
Therefore, she will not make this decision. So I open it up. Tyler, what was your rank again? I forget.
He doesn't have, like, trooper is general enough, trooper.
Okay. Trooper, Inquisitor. You have 3 options to get out of here. We can either use the cliffs, but then we have to climb down. And there are the orc patrols in the area. And then we have the forest, but that's probably bullshit now. And then we have an orc encampment. We can go right in there. Now, they haven't seen me come through there in many years. They may not be expecting us, although they will be there. So if you want the element of surprise, that is perhaps our best option. But it is not the safest. It is up to you to decide.
Well, do we have any climbing equipment whatsoever? Because I don't.
No, sir.
We have...
Okay, well, I don't want to sound... sorry, Marnie.
We have our hands and our legs.
Okay.
Oh,
well,
yeah, no, I do have those as well, yeah.
All right, well, as a person with their intestines as much out as in, I'm going to say strong pass on the climbing. I don't think we'll survive that without gear. Now, when you say the woods are bullshit, you've got us, either the options are an orc encampment, which sounds heavily defended, or the woods. What is going on with the woods situation?
The wood, the orcs bring their stupid machines through there. It may be the best option.
Well, looking at your armaments, we do have a plasma gun and we do have a power fist, which means I think we would have a shot against vehicles as long as it's not a stomper or some other gargant equivalent.
If I may, sir, I'm more than happy to lay the hurting on some orcs, be they in a camp or in the forest, but if the forest is a throughway for them to be moving vehicles, it's not a fixed position, is it? Probably not as heavily guarded because they're not staying there, sir. They're moving through it. Might even be able to get ourselves a set of wheels, eh?
I don't No, I don't think rank is going to tremendously matter now that you are a member of the Inquisition. But congratulations, Captain. That is an excellent idea.
So fucking proud. Just like he somehow grows 3 inches.
Do you salute every time you're like given praise? Is this is it always metal arm up?
I think he salutes at captain because it's his first time saluting as a captain.
Understood.
So I think that feels really good.
Now, the other thing we should note, friends, is you're both used to following the Imperial Guard chain of command. As Inquisitorial agents, you have graduated beyond that. Your rank is higher than any member of the Imperial Guard, except me. I will give orders to you, and you will obey those orders, and I cannot be countermanded. I speak with the Emperor's voice, which means when you speak on my behalf, you speak with the Emperor's voice. You don't have to kneel. You don't have to salute to others unless it seems, cordially appropriate. You obey the Emperor's law, and the Emperor's law are my orders. Do you understand?
This is the greatest honor of my life.
Atticus knew this, but for it to apply to him is a dizzying. So he takes a minute to really digest that and then just silently nods.
Excellent. Well, then let's go to the woods, friends, and let's try to claim ourselves a vehicle to get to FOB Charlie and meet this Celesti heiress. The Emperor's provided you both, and the Emperor always provides for the righteous.
It's funny you say that, because if you're talking about Mork and Gork, they sometimes provide for their righteous too, which is what the sound of the massive explosion back at your camp indicates. You hear the walls begin to rumble, and suddenly the slow but somewhat menacing ping of auspices as the knobs seem to begin to pick up your trail. Might be time to move.
Okay, lovely talking with you both, but I believe it's time for us to head to the woods.
So, with that, into the woods we go again.
This episode of the Valentyne Heresy features Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter as Alto, Laura Elizabeth at EL Hamstring on Twitter as Lyric, and our Game Master Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter. This episode was edited by Ryan LaPlante, and the Valentyne Heresy's show logo was created by Decapitated Markers at Decapitated Marker on Twitter. That's MRKR. Our theme song is The Hordes by Megan McDuffie, and our ads use the tracks No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR, provided by freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dum-Dums and Dice, you can visit our website at dumdumdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumdumdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumdumdice. We have merchandise available at redbubble.com/people/dumdumdice, and most importantly, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. Ave Imperator, and death to all the heretics.
Dum-Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time: Christian Menicola, Long, the Half-Blind Prophet, James Cuellar, Charles Grams, Christopher Little, Olin Anderson, Sue One, George Dolby, One True Artistry, Orion Birchfield, Lord Abradovic, Noel Lewis, Scott Garland, Anthony Griffin, Chet Awesome Laser, Caitlin O, Zekin X, Jordan Neesmith, Benjamin V, Gavin and Abby McDonald, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.